This is Stacia, and today we're going to look at the main line of the Latvian Gambit, and we're going to look at this with the white pieces. So if you play 1e4 followed by knight f3, you will face the Latvian Gambit on occasion. So we're going to look at how strong players play against this opening. We'll do it in my typical fashion where we look at the first 10 moves of the opening, and I'll sort of explain my understanding of what's going on, and hopefully we'll learn something. So let's have a look. 1e4, e5, knight f3, and now there are a lot of moves that you will see in this position. So knight c6 is one of the oldest positions ever, and it's still very common today. Knight f6 leads to the Petrov, or the Russian defense. There's also d6, which is the Philidor. There's even queen e7. But the fifth most common move in my database is the move f5. And this is, in fact, the Latvian Gambit. Now, I'll tell you right away that this move f5, the computer hates it. It immediately says that white has a big edge. And you can tell that moving the f-pawn like this is risky because it opens up the diagonal to the king. So there are ideas to play queen h5 check. We're not going to see those in the main line, but if I were playing this in a game, I would certainly be keeping that option open. Okay, the other problem with f5 is that it fails to defend the pawn, right? So like, the main line, knight c6, that's basically a move to defend the pawn. And same with d6, the Philidor. So black's defending the pawn in these lines. In the Latvian Gambit, they're kind of ignoring that and playing f5 and attacking our center instead. So in the main line, we play the most, obvious move, which is knight takes pawn. And now there are two main ways that black plays against this. The main move is queen f6. So getting the queen out early and with tempo against the knight. This also defends the pawn for a second. And the other way that black can play is to play knight c6. And if you take, which is the best move, they take with the d pawn. And this just opens lines for black. It opens their queen, opens the bishop, the drunk bishop. And black will have play, but all of this, you should know, is objectively good for white. Okay, so let's continue with the main line. Queen f6 attacking the knight. And now there's an obvious good move for white. I think it's the move d4. So we create the pawn duo in the center. We defend the knight. The knight stays in the center. All is well with the world. All right. So now white wants to play here, but they actually throw in the move d6 first. This opens the bishop up. And now we need to move our knight. And you got to be a little careful here. I think the most natural move would be knight f3. But if we go here, then pawn takes pawn, and our knight's attacked again. So I don't think that's a good move. Same with knight to d3. Black could just take and then be attacking the knight. So I think partially for that reason, knight c4 is played here. And this is sort of a repositioning move. Now when black takes here, which does happen in the main line, it doesn't come with tempo against the knight. Also, the knight on c4 is defended. That's kind of nice. You don't want your pieces hanging. And also the knight has the option to pivot into the e3 square. And this tends to be an excellent square for the knight. And in some lines, the queen will come to g6, putting pressure on g2, which in turn stops this bishop from being able to develop easily. And the knight on e3 will actually develop here. So yeah, sort of a long-winded explanation as to why this might be a good move. Okay, so let's continue with the main line. Here we can actually take a breath and develop a piece. So the main line here is knight c3. So we're going to develop our queenside knight with tempo again on this pawn. And also, I think black would actually love to play d5, and it stops that. So I really like knight c3. And then black plays queen g6. So this is kind of what I was talking about. The queen defends the pawn, first of all. That's a main idea. But also the queen is putting pressure here. So now, if we develop our bishop, the queen can simply take on g2. Now this might actually still be good for white, like rook f1, and it's complicated. But that's the kind of game that black is looking for. They want to mix it up. They want it to get crazy. And so I actually think one of the best ways to play against black is to stay solid and stay objective. And that being said, the next move to me is the strangest one that I encountered in the main line. That's the move f3. Yeah. So if you watch Ben Feingold's videos, then you know never play f3. Here is objectively the best move. The computer loves this move. And I do get the point. So it's kind of a pawn break, but more or less a plan that happens in the Latvian is black will play c6 in order to play d5 and create this annoying pawn chain on the light squares. f3 attacks this pawn immediately. Oops, sorry. And black doesn't have good options to deal with this right now. Like if they take the pawn, we take with the queen. That helps us. And they can't really push. We have this guarded by not only the bishop but the knight as well. And they can't play d5. We have that guarded. So, oops, sorry. So black basically has to ignore this and just develop. And that's why bishop e7 is the main move here. Okay, so now we can take here. This creates a nice center for us. And the main move for black in this position is now knight h6. Strange looking move. I will say that I think knight f6 is more natural, and the computer says that that's not good due to e5. Okay, but unless you study the lines after e5 and you know what you're getting into, or maybe you're a stronger player than your opponent, and you don't mind going into complicated, crazy variations, I probably wouldn't even play e5 here. I'd probably recommend something like queen d3, which is another move that's played here. But e5 is objectively winning, just so you know. Okay, but the main move is actually knight h6, avoiding e5. And I think black doesn't mind the knight coming here because they actually want to come to this square. Funny enough. All right. So this is actually move 8, so we only have a couple more moves we'll be analyzing here. All right, so the main move here is now bishop e3. So we're developing our bishop. I think, white would love to play queen d2 and castle queenside and just claim to be better. So that's definitely what's going on, but there are dangers in the position still. Okay, so the main move is now knight g4. Computer gives c6. I think stopping the knight from coming to d5. So this is an idea for white. Definitely. But knight g4. Okay, attacking the bishop. Note that it is kind of a threat to take the bishop for free because, well, let's see. This knight just feels unstable here, so I'm not seeing exactly how, but be aware that if this knight gets kicked away, that's a free bishop. And white plays queen d2 here. And this is move 10, so I'm going to show you the final move out of our 10 moves of the main line. Black plays bishop b6. This looks like an innocent move, but it's actually got it's got some venom in it. So I'll tell you this one last trap before we call it a day. This is meant to be an intro after all. So I think if I was white, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to castle. My knight is defended by my bishop, so if you want to take, that's fine. But if we do castle, black actually has this nice little trick. They can take the knight, okay? The point being the knight was defending this bishop. Okay, we take and say thank you, but then they take here, and suddenly you realize you're in a lot of trouble. If we take the knight, bishop g5 wins. So sneaky, sneaky. So it's actually true that for that reason, the move bishop e6 actually stops us from castling queenside. Castling queenside becomes a blunder because of bishop takes followed by knight takes bishop. So in this move, so I'll give you the 11th move since you don't want to blunder with castles. Is the move bishop f4. And there are 2 games in the database and both are draws, which is very interesting because the computer evaluation says plus 1.4 for white. So white's doing well, but not so easy. So do proceed with caution. But this concludes our first 10 moves of the main line. So I may come back and look at some games from this position since there are 2. Or I may do more videos on earlier deviations from the main line. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and found this helpful. Have a great day. Bye.